All right. Thanks. I hope that we are all on the page and getting caught up quickly. Right off the bat, just looking at the entries that you guys have made in the intro portion, I see some really interesting people that you guys talked to for your homework. So I'm very excited to hear about what happened with that. So just to kind of get us on the same page again, I'm going to just recap where we are right now. So you'll see the pictures that you might remember from our initial workshops underneath that kind of sign-in table that you were just working in. And going back to session one, thinking about how we heard from each of you some of the challenges that you face in targeting in your programs, and identified three thematic areas that seemed common across the group. These areas were changes to vulnerabilities from COVID-19, assessing appropriateness of current interventions with new vulnerabilities, and struggle to communicate with donors around funding programming flexibility. In our second workshop, we brought back some of our thoughtful research that you guys had done in each of your thematic groups, and we used that information in peer coaching sessions to help identify and refine specific challenges that we're facing in our own projects and that we want some additional support with. Some of these challenges that we identified were assessing household vulnerability for COVID impacts, reaching population dense places such as markets, churches, mosques, thinking about mobility of populations, etc. Now, in today's session, we're going to move into the process of planning for further adaptations and to address these challenges. The plans for adaptation that you'll be developing during this session will be the basis of what you will share about in the showcase on December 15, for those of you who are going to be showcasing. Our objectives for today's workshop are right below kind of our recap. We have the capture and share stories, insights, and tips from your homework consultations and experiences in participant targeting. We're prepared for the final showcase. And share and receive feedback from peers on your adaptation plans. So next, we just have a quick agenda just so you guys can see how we're going to be moving through the workshop today below there.
Darren, what page are we on?
We are on page 3 of the Google Doc.
Thank you.
Now we're going to spend a few minutes going over the homework that that you guys did in between the last workshop and now. In the homework you were given, we asked you to be ready to answer a few questions. We're going to go back and look at this on the Google Doc. Now, if you have any notes or any kind of thing that you wrote down, responses from the people that you interviewed, pull those out and have it ready for this next session. All right. So what we're going to be doing now is called the rapid information capture. On the top of page 4, you'll see a table where we have grouped people into one of 4 groups. Those groups are basically separated by where we interpreted you are with your project within the life cycle of your project and the adaptation that you'll be doing with your targeting adaptation. So we're going to be breaking off in a few moments into these groups, into breakout rooms. You'll be placed with everyone in that group as well as one member from IDEAL. Once we're in these rooms, we're going to capture the information that you've gathered through your homework and the experiences that you are looking to adapt and integrate into your projects. You'll be given 10 minutes to add your information to the Google Doc, and then you will be invited to share with your peers who will offer additional insights, looking at how we kind of did things with that peer coaching session. If you have any issues, like we saw earlier, if you have issues with typing into those boxes, let us know, and we'll try to figure out how we can maybe circumnavigate that if we need to work it through the chat boxes or something like that. So once you're in these breakout rooms, we'll give you a little bit more, we'll give you these instructions again. But again, you'll have about 10 minutes to look at the boxes, fill in the questions and fill in the areas where you can put the information that you gleaned from your interviews. And then we'll take a few minutes where we can discuss each and every one of your interviews and your the stories that you will bring out. One additional thing is when you're in your groups, please identify one person who will share back to the wider group when we come back from the breakout rooms, probably one or two stories or inferences or ideas that we will bring out during these breakout rooms that we can share with the wider group. Does that make sense to everyone? All right. I hope everyone had as wonderful of a time with their groups as we did. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take each of the volunteers who agreed to share out some of their insights and stories. We're going to give you a couple of minutes to share your insights, and then we'll kind of flesh out some questions or some other points that might be helpful for the rest of the community here from what you've learned. We'll go ahead and let each person present. I think we can follow the order that you are on in that table on the Google Doc.
We're on page, which one?
We are on page, I can't tell.
Page 9, or if you just click on the pop-up
9,
participant
yes.
panel
Pop-up
on the
panel of
left, yeah, 9.
participants.
Yeah.
Underneath the picture of the empty panel table. How sad and fitting. So once each person has had the chance to kind of go through, we might ask a couple of questions while you're presenting and sharing. Then we can open it up to the group for discussions about how this may be applicable to you or other questions you may have. And we can kind of flesh out some of these thoughts. Sound good? Let's go ahead and start then with Veronica.
Yes. So my story is focused on data. So on my program, which is a large USAID project, we are about to launch an ICAP survey and a baseline and do a GESI analysis. And I have confirmed that there is a number of questions that are centered on COVID, along with measurement of other various types of vulnerabilities, gender, age, disability, so on. So assuming that we do get rich, trustworthy data, there's going to be a lot of it. So now the challenge will be to pull out the COVID-related challenge or factors, I guess, and properly use that data to influence our vulnerability criteria, our targeting, our tools, and everything. So the challenge is now amongst a set of people that hasn't really done this exercise before. How do we, take this rich set of data and actually use it to properly target from the beginning, because we have not started implementation. And this will be like an ongoing process. So I won't have an answer in 2 weeks' time.
What are some of the COVID specific questions that you have in this?
Well, I know there's questions about recent shocks and stresses, and obviously it may not only come from COVID, but there will be space that identifies COVID as that shock. And then also there's going to be questions that focus not just on the economic impacts of COVID, but also the psychological, because there has been an increase in suicides and so on in Nepal. So yeah, there's those two types of questions. I'm sure there's more, but I don't know them personally right now.
And is all this through key informant interviews, focus group discussions?
No, so there's
surveys?
gonna be a firm and baseline firm doing the data collection for the baseline at the same time as the ICAP, which is another group of people. So there, as I say, it's not like we're going to be limited in our data. There's going to be a lot of it. So how do we use that now?
Great. Okay. Thank you. Faisal.
Okay, thank you. The story of, our group is, mainly focusing on, the critical challenges related to, this targeting. So these include like, favoritism, lack of, adaptation, especially in the face of COVID-19, war, displacement, and conflict, as well as, sometimes, when, the need is very high, comparing to, the available resource, targeting is becoming very, very challenging. So there is a need, to have like robust, flexible, and adaptive, targeting criteria, which should be, complemented by, feedback, complaint, and response mechanism. So our, main focus is, to have like, robust targeting criteria, which is, very flexible and adaptable, to the context. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, you mentioned a couple times the need for flexibility. Can you explain a little bit how you make your criteria flexible, or how you approach flexibility within the ability to gather this information?
Yes, the flexibility, like, for example, I can have, one example, from Yemen, for example, where, the need is very high, comparing to the resource. So, for example, if we simply take, the current criteria, maybe every community member, can meet, that criteria. But, if we don't have, the resource, we may have, multi-layered criteria, to identify, the most in need community members. So we can be, more adaptable and, flexible, to, when we set, our targeting criteria. Maybe other, team members, can also, add on this.
I think what Fasil has explained is perfectly clear. In Yemen, we have targeting criteria set by various clusters. And these targeting criteria have been in use for quite some while. So we've reached a point where we are asking ourselves, what should we do differently? Because now with COVID-19 around, could have we missed a point to have static targeting criteria? So we are saying to ourselves, is a time we need to be a bit flexible and then also adapt some of these targeting criteria that are adaptable to various conditions, circumstances, and context as it changes. So this is basically the flexibility that Fasil is explaining. Yeah, thank you.
That's great. And so when thinking about the adaptations, thinking around adaptations in these experiences, did you already know specific adaptations that needed to be made, or where you needed to make adaptations? Or did you just approach this issue with thinking something needed to be changed? How specific did you have in your thinking when you were approaching some of these challenges?
Fasil, you want to take that, or I can try and answer it?
That one, yeah, no problem.
Oh, okay. So currently in Yemen, it has a population of 29 million, and 24 million people are in need of one form of assistance. And this is almost like 80% of the country that needs assistance. So just having a criteria like vulnerable household, it simply means that everybody is vulnerable. But for example, not all IDPs are vulnerable because different people have different, ability to withstand shock. So we want now to refine our targeting criteria to be able to target the very vulnerable people who deserve some form of assistance amidst limited resource. So it is this particular need that we realized, oh, our targeting criteria was so general. So now we need to pause a bit and look at ways how we can refine these targeting criteria. And as I've already said, also there is the COVID-19 challenge that has added on top of the already vulnerable community to now expand the spectrum of vulnerability. Also, that one has pushed us to think we need to be flexible, and we are aware that there are other vulnerabilities like floods that are affecting communities. They do come, and there is no predictable pattern to know when and who is going to be affected by floods. So when these come, we also include it. And our initial targeting criteria was based on socioeconomy indicators. It was based on food security indicators alone, but that is not going to be enough targeting criteria. We need to broaden our spectrum of indicators to look at when we are doing the targeting. And this is now the flexibility we want to have in our SOPs to guide us forward.
Oh, great. Okay, thank you. Let's move on to Rodwell.
All right, thank you very much for this, and I think the other team members have already started picking on the points that I was going to talk about. But yeah, so I'm going to be talking about the local adaptation of vulnerability criteria to context, and we're mainly looking at having the criteria at our level is these development organizations who deal or who communicate with BHA. We will have a different understanding compared to what the communities also, how they approach vulnerability, how they approach targeting criteria and all. So there's some involvement of the communities that we need to do to make sure that they understand in case we have to make any changes to our vulnerability criteria. They need to understand where we are coming from and what we are doing. And one of the examples that I gave was in northern Uganda, where we are operating. You find that the rural communities don't seem to have grasped the effect of COVID on their livelihoods as well as on their vulnerability status. So the issue is, how do we bring them to the same level of understanding that we have in terms of the effects of COVID on the work that we're doing, as well as on their livelihoods, as well as getting their ideas. So it's not only about us adapting the vulnerability criteria, but also having their input, having their thoughts on how we can adapt the vulnerability criteria to take into consideration the effect of COVID, which was previously not there. So it's a new pandemic that they are facing. They were not there during the time of the Spanish flu and all that. So this is something new that people are not really used to. And so what ideas do they also have in terms of how we adapt the vulnerability criteria to the rural context, especially? Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Rodwell. So I'll see if there's any questions. We'll be moving on in just a couple of minutes. Are there any thoughts or questions from the group that you might think might be helpful for the rest of the group here, or to help you some of your thinking? Additionally, Suleimanu, you shared with us a link, the Science Direct link. Could you share that with the rest of the people here in the chat box? Thank you.
Yes, I shared the link. It was just a study, although it doesn't directly answer the question, but it shows, for example, some elements that can be linked to vulnerability. But it was in the UK, unfortunately. But that is valuable and can give us some few ideas of where we can start brainstorming on. So I can definitely share the link if that can be a good starting point for some people to brainstorm about it. I will do it soon.
It's already in the chat, Sule, you're good.
Okay, thank you.
Are there other questions, thoughts that the group might have after these presentations? One thing I'd like to draw your attention to, we didn't get a chance to fully jump into them, but on the Google Doc that we're all looking at, on the bottom of page 9, there are 4 questions that we have kind of listed out there. And while we didn't get a chance to kind of chat about these during this portion of the discussion, I would like to have everyone take a look at these questions and think about how you might be able to answer some of these, or how these might be applicable to some of your projects as you're looking to adapt them. All right, so if there are no further points or questions for the panelists, thank you guys so much. That was really insightful, and I greatly appreciate you bringing this to us and doing it so effectively. Let's go ahead and move along. I'm going to hand it over to my colleague Camille to give us an update, or kind of bring us to what we're thinking about with the showcase.
Great, thanks, Darren. So everyone, I am on page 10 of the Google document. So it's the page that starts off with a screenshot of the event invitation for our showcase. So it is certainly happening. Our showcase will be on December 15, which is, I believe, a Tuesday. And we haven't made this invite public yet. So if you're wondering about that, you will get the link shortly. But I just want to take a few minutes to give you guys some information on what to expect about this showcase. So for the audience, it will be open to the entire food security community. We will be advertising it through the website, the newsletter. So we can also expect that BHA will be present during the showcase. For the event format, you will each have your own breakout room from which you will present and discuss with a small group of event attendees. So it is going to be an open format sort of event where event attendees can choose any breakout room that they want to hear from or learn from. So if you've attended any of the M&E digital, oh, no, that's not it, data for decision-making showcases, we're gonna be following the same format. So you'll have a chance to share your targeting challenge and your plan for adaptation as a pitch at the very beginning. And then people will be able to make their decision on which rooms to join. So you'll it's kind of like almost like a gallery walk. You stay in one room and people can go in and out of the breakout rooms. In terms of the visual, so as we've mentioned in previous sessions, we will be using Miro. So you'll have a space in Miro where we would put the slide deck, your presentations. We have a template for that, which you will access at the end of this session. Once you complete the template and send those to us, we will then put those in Miro. So now that we have, the format, the visuals, how can we prepare for that, right? So we will have signups for coaching sessions I believe in the next 2 weeks, where you can share your completed presentations with us, rehearse your talking points, and receive feedback from the team. So you'll have a chance to sign up for those coaching session slots at the end of this workshop. So yeah, just a brief taste test of what to expect for the showcase, because that will very much inform the next part of our activity. And I do want to welcome Crispin. Hopefully you're able to open the link to the Google document. We are now on page 11. All right, so let's jump right into the next part of our workshop. So We will be spending the next 45 minutes in peer assists for adaptation planning. So for this section, we would want to give you all the opportunity to think through your adaptation plans, your targeting adaptation plans, articulate those, put those in writing, and then have a chance to receive feedback from others. So you should see a table on page, which one are we in again? 11, on page 11. So we have pre-grouped you according to the targeting challenges you've mentioned in the previous sessions. So if you feel that your targeting challenge has changed, please let us know in the chat box. But for now, we're gonna go with these groupings. So group 1 will be Rodwell, Suleiman, Danielle, and Veronica. And all 4 of you have mentioned challenges around changes to vulnerabilities related to the pandemic. Group 2, Barak, Fasil, Moyan, Ibrahim, and Crispin. You have mentioned challenges related to struggling with communicating, negotiating with your donor around programming and funding flexibility, as well as non-COVID specific operational issues around targeting. So we're just going to put you all in one group. So let's see. You will each have your own table, and I'm going to share my screen just to make this explanation clearer. So you should be able to see my screen. If you click the document outline on the left-hand side, you'll see here.
Oh, sorry, Camille. I think we're
Yes.
seeing the facilitator's guide.
Oh, hold on.
Yeah.
New share. Thank you for raising that. There you go. Are you looking at the right document now?
Yeah.
Perfect. Great. Thank you. So on the left-hand side, as you can see, I clicked this outline icon. And from here, you can see your personal tables. So you've named them. So Rodwell, this is Suleiman. So feel free to do that and just go straight into your personal table. Great. So hopefully you're all able to do that. You can also just scroll down and look for your name, but it's just easier to use the outline view. So once you are in your breakout rooms, you will be given by your facilitator 10 minutes to complete your own adaptation plan. So just fill that in. You have 10 minutes to do that. And then once everyone has completed their own input into the table, we will do rounds of peer assist or peer coaching. So we're going to be following the same format that we used last week. So for example, for group 1, Rodwell will start and he'll have 3 minutes to share what he wrote down in his table, to share his adaptation plan. After the 3 minutes, Suleiman, Danielle, Veronica, who are in his group, will act as peer coaches or peer assisters. So the 3 of you, Veronica, Danielle, and Suleiman, you will ask questions of clarity of Rodwell, make sure you understand his challenge, and then you're going to be giving your thoughts, feedback, ideas, insights, tips, to just help him shape up his plan even further. Once that's complete, Suleiman, you go next. Suleiman, you share what you've written on your table, and Rodwell, Danielle, and Veronica will provide the same feedback, or not the same feedback because you all have different challenges, but we'll provide feedback in the same way. So we will go through the whole round until everyone in the group gets a chance to request feedback from others and share your adaptations. So let's see. Are there any questions so far about the instructions? Questions? You will have an ideal facilitator in your room as well. So that's a source of support. We also have all the sources of support, right? On page 11, there's a yellow box with instructions, breakout room instructions. So if you ever get confused on what's going on, you can also refer to that. Yeah, so I think if there are no more questions, Kim, are we ready to be sent to our rooms? Yes. Okay, great. See you all in 30 minutes, I believe. I'm gonna jump right in. I really wanted to do a debrief session, but I don't think we have enough time for that. So if y'all could join me on page 20 of the Google Doc. I just want to get back to kind of helping us think through how to prepare for the showcase on December 15. So everyone who is in the midst of adaptation, maybe you've completed your own adaptation, or you have a plan for doing so in the future, everyone is welcome to present on the 15th. So do get, this is a really great opportunity for you to share your work with the food security community and also receive feedback from the community writ large. So hopefully all of you are open to presenting. On page 20, you will see a purple box with a link, a Google link. So if you click that link, that will bring you to the presentation template. So feel free to open that right now and kind of glance through it. It should prompt you to make a copy of this document. It may also ask you to log in before you can make a copy. So feel free to do those steps. Once you make a copy, you can edit directly on that version because that version is completely just for you. So we would request that we would like for you guys to take some time to complete that. If you are presenting, complete that template and sign up for a coaching session. We have 3 dates that we've set aside, December 7, 8, and 9. So that's Monday to Wednesday next week, 8 to 9:30 a.m. Eastern time. So if you can perhaps take a glance at your calendars right now, or even after this workshop, and sign up for a time slot, we will send you the calendar invites to the time slot that you signed up for. So what to expect during these coaching sessions, we would love for you to have completed the template so we can go over and rehearse your talking points. We'll be happy to help you out, hash those ideas, and any other feedback that you might need from us. So yeah, feel free to take time to sign up for a session. We will also have a full dry run with all presenters, with a facilitator's guide, everything on December 14, from 8 to 9:15 a.m. So you'll see here at the bottom, I'm highlighting that full dry run on this date. So if you cannot make that dry run, it's also okay, but it would be great if, just for you to see the full flow of the event. I said a lot. It's a lot of information. So essentially template. So essentially you make a decision if you want to present. We have the template for you. We have a coaching session and then the dry run. So 3 main things. I'm going to stop talking right here and open it up for any questions you might have for us. It's a lot of things, right? Check your calendar, open that link. Do you have any questions? But yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, Rod, you were saying something, Rod. Might have interrupted you.
Yeah. Okay. I was looking at the calendar as well, and yeah, I guess this also means that we would. I personally would need to then make a consultation with my chief of party, and especially if you mentioned that BHA would be there in the presentation. I don't want them to be shocked and say, "Oh, so yeah, that's what you."
Yeah.
We didn't know about that,
sure.
So yeah, it's one of the things that we
Absolutely.
need to do.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if others feel the same way, you need to do some more internal consultations before you make a decision. Feel free to do that. We will send a reminder just so you guys don't forget that we have sessions to sign up for. Yeah, we're no rush, but for those who have already made those decisions, feel free to, fill in the table. Let's see. Any other questions from the group about the showcase?
I've opened the link. It's a great template. I'm loving it, but I am not seeing where my organization's logo will appear. Are you guys going to take into consideration our organization?
So we typically, most of all of our ideal events use the same template. We will have, I think usually in the last slide, right, Kim? That's where we put the organizational logos on the last slide. So if you can email us your organization's HD, high definition logo, high quality, we will take care of that.
And just a reminder for everyone, I'm gonna, insert myself here, that
Yeah.
however you set, these slides are to just capture the information. Don't worry too much about formatting and looks and logo, because what happens is we're actually taking all of the information in these slides and we're gonna create a poster. And that poster will have your logo. It very well might have your bio. We're gonna work through that in these coaching sessions and get that together. But the slides are really just a information capture device, and not like the final ta-da. So
Really good point, Lloyd. Yeah, and that's the in between the coaching and the coaching sessions in the full dry run. We will give you the link to that Miro board so you can see how things are laid out. Any other questions from others about the showcase? We're really hoping, oh, Moyan, go ahead.
No, it's fine. No additional question. It's okay.
Great. I think the other thing I wanted to point out was that it doesn't need to be, our idea for this showcase is really peer-to-peer exchange. So some other people in the food security community may be encountering the same things, asking the same questions you have. So the idea is just to create that space for connection and exchange. So it doesn't have to be this groundbreaking presentation. We've solved this, you have a solution for this big problem, and only then will I present. So feel free to come in at whatever stage you are in your adaptation process. Yeah, I think with that, I'm just at time. We will send follow-up emails so we can get y'all to sign up for sessions. But with that, I'm gonna turn it over to Darren for the last part of this workshop.
Thanks, Camille. All right, so I just wanted to take a couple of moments very quickly to kind of look at where we are now and kind of the process, the journey we've taken over the past several weeks, and just some things that I've noticed about through the conversations that we've had. One of the things that's really stood out to me is my understanding of the context that all of you guys are programming in COVID has become a lot more detailed and clear, I want to say. The questions that are being asked, the points that are being brought up in discussions are becoming more detailed. And it's very clear to me, and I'm understanding more because it looks like you guys are looking at the challenges that you are facing with new insights from your colleagues and from the other people here. And it's been fascinating to see how we're shifting our understanding of how COVID is affecting our programming, how we can look at our programs, even non-COVID specifically, and understand where we're going in the future and how we've gotten to where we are. So this has been fascinating to see. I hope you guys have been able to see that as well. Additionally, the constant conversation about vulnerability, the criteria and how this is evolving. And I think one of the things that stuck out to me is looking at the longevity of the issues that we're facing right now. I think when we started with this COVID thinking, we kind of thought about this as another 3-6 month response, and hopefully we can move along. And we're starting to ask questions and see things about this is lasting for a while, and this is shifting how we do our work. And I think that as we're learning these lessons, we're applying these lessons elsewhere in our programs. I'm seeing just through the discussions we've had here. And so that's been fascinating. And I hope that we can continue on these discussions, because these adaptations that we're making are going to be relevant outside of just cash, food security, distribution within the COVID world. So I hope we can continue these discussions. And one of the big points that we're going to be bringing up in the showcases and what we've had in the conversations here is how we reflect our context and our needs to our donors and authorities in our areas and decision makers. And it comes down to what I mentioned first is a good and clear understanding of the context and the vulnerabilities of the populations that we're dealing with. And as we're relaying those to the donors and to the local authorities and the decision makers, this is how we are able to relay what our needs are as program designers, program implementers, and reflects the needs and the gaps for the participants of our projects. So just always have that in the back of your head as well. So with all of that, I would like to hear what you guys think about the workshop today, and also kind of the workshops that we have done. If you move on to page 21 of the Google Doc, we have a box that consists of 4 boxes. So if you want to take a few moments just to fill in, respond to those 4 questions. I think that would be helpful for us moving forward. And if we need to improve, which, I mean, it was pretty close to perfect, let's be honest. But if there are options for improvement or what you might like to see in the future, this is one opportunity that we'll have to kind of improve and work upon that. And then after that, there's one more kind of set of questions that we'll ask for your input below this one. So I'll give you a couple seconds for this, and then I'll move on and just explain the next activity.